All right, I am with our guest this week, a man who doesn't need much introduction, Phil Galfond. It is always a pleasure, my friend. And as I said off the air, it's been a while. So I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me and the fans here at the Poker News Podcast.
Yeah, no problem, Chad. It's good to be here.
One of the reasons I reached out to you was an article that our very own John Sofin published on Poker News titled Poker Dealer Shot Takes Against PLO Legend Phil Galfond. The story is that an unknown player who plays under the screen name Christ is Lord on WSOP.com decided to sit down at the $5,100 pot limit Omaha tables with you back during the World Series of Poker. You were going to stream some online bracelet events, but we're also looking to multi-table by playing some cash games, and actually got some takers with, or a taker at least, which I'm guessing is pretty rare for you. You know, you want to play some people, but they don't always want to sit down with you.
Yeah, it's rare. It's hard to find, relatively high stakes PLO action, especially heads up. So it was a welcome surprise as I was sitting there. I when I stream, which I don't do too often, but during the like online WSOP events, sometimes I like to stream. I just open a couple of cash tables and sit just in case, because I get a little bored, one or two tabling, an online WSOP event, especially in the early going when it's not that big a deal yet. Which is fine because I'll play that and I'll talk to chat and all the things you do on a stream. But what I hope for is a little bit of cash game action, and this particular time I actually got some.
Yeah, it was. Was there any concern when you get a guy who sits down that you're not familiar with? I know the high stakes is usually pretty close. So when somebody new sits down, it's like, all right, who is this guy? I hope I'm not getting, bamboozled somehow, some way. What did you think when this guy sat down that you had no idea about?
Well, when I play on, so if I were out of the country and playing on Poker Stars, let's say, and there was an unknown that sat down at those stakes, I would be a little on guard, just because I'm familiar with all the screen names that show
Right.
up in those games. But on WSOP.com, I'm not on there very often. Basically, a couple times a year when it's kind of peak season, I'll go on and see if there are games. So it could just be. It doesn't surprise me if somebody shows up there who, is still a good player, but is not somebody that a screen name I recognize or even a person I recognize. And then also, because it's World Series of Poker time, you do get some people potentially who win a World Series event online or win a World Series event live and put some money on and take a shot. So, um, no, I'm usually optimistic, I guess I would say.
It ended up being a match where he beat you for a little bit for almost $7,500. It turned out he had set a stop win of $5,000. So then ended up, quitting you with a profit. What were your thoughts as that happened? Is that frustrating to kind of have I lost a little bit, but he's quitting me right now? Or is it something that you respect when somebody sets a limit like that and sticks to it?
I think initial reaction is always, well, anytime that I'm playing and lose the action and I'm kind of excited to get some heads up action that I don't get very often,
Right.
it's disappointment. So whether I'm winning or losing, um, it's always like gut reaction. It's a little frustrating when you lose a big pot and then immediately the game's over. But it is fine. And then actually, when he reached out afterwards, because I was still streaming, and he got into my stream chat and started talking to me and mentioned that he had a stop win and mentioned that it was the biggest he'd played. Then, you know, I was, I was like, I told him I was happy for him, and I think I was happy for him. I don't think that was not genuine, but yeah, I just, there's a weird element of, when you play online, even live poker, just you kind of train yourself to, you're there to win, and everybody's an adult. They show up, they know the rules, they show up with their money, and whatever happens, happens. You try your best to win, no matter who's across you from you. But you do occasionally, like, if this guy played the biggest he ever played, and was taking a shot, was kind of out of his depth, and I won, 20,000. It wouldn't feel as good as winning 20,000 normally would. And so in that respect, like, I'd much rather lose to him than to a pro who like a high stakes pro who is not affected too much either way.
Right.
Like, I'm glad that you know, a less than one buy-in loss at those stakes was like a good event for somebody, like a meaningful impact on him.
The match took place on WSOP.com, which is one of the few regulated licensed sites in the United States. It was late last year where you shut down Run It Once, a site with taking an aim at the US market. And then a few months later in March, we learned that Run It Once was sold to Rush Street and that you were going to remain in a key role. But that was kind of the last update we had. Has there been any movement here in 2022 regarding that story?
Movement certainly, but I think as far as updates, no, there's not. We're kind of in a, I guess, long story short is when we have something to update on, we will. But we are still hard at work, and it's been fun and exciting, and I'm excited to move towards the U.S. market and actually launch something here, and with some with the support of Rush Street Interactive behind us, rather than doing it on my own.
Well, we're definitely excited when there is an announcement to be had. Do share it with us for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk Galfond Challenge. It's been a little bit since we've had an update on that front. I think the last that I recall, you had defeated Brandon Adams, and then Daniel Cates, Jungle Man, was supposed to be up next. Whatever happened there? Did that match take place, or is there any movement on the Galfond Challenge front?
No, not much movement there. Jungleman and I are going to play at some point, but he's a tough guy to pin down, and I am a little bit as well. So it'll happen at some point. I don't know when. It'll be fun. We'll both stream it, and like we played a mini challenge a couple years ago. We both streamed it, and I went and rewatched his stream. He was so funny. So it'll be like, I think he's viewing it as a fun event, and I will be too. So it's a shorter challenge that we'll have. I think it's 7,500 hands rather than like the 25,000 hand challenges that I've been doing. And whenever it happens, it'll be fun. I feel like I need to start maybe pushing for us to do it in bits and pieces. Initially, I wanted to do it all in 1 or 2 weeks, let's call it 2 weeks, that we just grind it out and be done, whether it's here in Nevada on WSOP.com or I travel outside of the US and we do it elsewhere. But because it's been so hard to get our schedules synced up, maybe I should just say next time I see an opportunity, hey, let's play a couple days, and then chip away at it over time. But otherwise, no, there's not anything on the Galfond Challenge front. I've been kind of asking for challengers that I can play from here, from my home in Las Vegas, because it's just difficult. Like, the challenges ended up lasting longer than I expected. I played fewer hands per day than I expected in all the challenges. So these were 3-month events sometimes, and traveling. Now that I have a son who's in preschool and I'm just kind of settled here, like, I can do it, but I'd rather not if I can avoid it. So I've been really looking for action here, and I'm still looking for action here, if anybody is interested in playing and listening.
Well, some action that does take place in Las Vegas is this high stakes duel that takes place at PokerGo Studio. Phil Hellmuth involved in that, and is often looking for challengers. Is that anything that's ever crossed your mind, of maybe throwing your hat in the ring and playing on high stakes duel?
I think I would like to. They had this just recently. Scott Seaver, for whatever reason we don't really know, got out of the third match
Right.
against Phil, the $800,000 match, and Jason Kuhn got the spot, and they were taking volunteers, and a handful of people stepped up. I did not, because I don't know, because you're subbing in for Scott, you would get one match, and if you lost, you'd be done. And I kind of want the opportunity to have 3 shots. So, I mean, I haven't officially. I guess actually I don't want to officially throw my hat in the ring, because it's going to be weird. Like, Jason Kuhn, if Jason wins, he's one of my closest friends. I don't really want to play him in the heads up duel. But I would like to play on the heads up duel at some point. Yeah,
Do you
definitely.
think, if and this is just hypothetical, I think it would be fun as a guy who loves PLO myself. I know you do, to do a high stakes duel, like PLO edition, and maybe it's not Phil Hellmuth, maybe it's Phil Galfond who kicks that off.
I mean, I would absolutely love it, obviously, and I'd be happy to kick it off. I I have to, I'm aware enough to know that I do not make the level of TV entertainment that Phil Hellmuth does, and I never take offense to not being a first choice for something like that. I really think that the success, like the Heads Up Duel, I think it's been my favorite poker show that I've ever seen throughout the years, and I think a large part of that is due to the dynamic between the players and kicking it off with Phil and Antonio, where there was a lot of interesting play because Heads Up is fascinating, but also just a lot of frustration and I don't know. It was really entertaining to watch, and I almost don't want to kick off the PLO one, but I would love to play. I'd love to play in both.
Something that you and Phil Hellmuth do have in common, myself included, is this Wisconsin connection. And I kind of wanted to ask you about that. Was it, you're not originally from Wisconsin, you just went to school there for a bit, correct?
Yeah. I went to University of Wisconsin-Madison for college. I'm from Maryland, but I was there. I mean, I was there. I lived there for 5 years. I was in school for about half of that, and then dropped out and just played poker for the second half.
Did you ever play poker at the legendary Players Bar where Hellmuth used to play, and myself?
No, I haven't. I haven't been actually. Yeah.
When was the last time you were in Wisconsin? I'm guessing maybe not since you left.
I was, I think I was back once, but yeah, it's been a very long time now.
Yeah. Well, I still think it's cool, as a Wisconsin guy myself, that you went to school there. I went to UW as well, so a lot of my poker chops, well, Wisconsin Badgers. So
Yeah, I loved it there. Actually, so two of my closest friends that I met there, they had moved away, but they actually recently moved back this past year. So maybe there's a trip in my not so distant future.
there you go. I got to ask, those watching the video will see it. Those listening to the podcast won't. Is that a water fountain in your office or your room or wherever you're broadcasting from?
It is, yeah. I drink a lot of water throughout the day.
I think it's awesome. It's like the sort of fill your water bottle that you would find at an airport or something. To have that in your house reminds me of when back in the day you made headlines for putting a slide in your New York apartment from the top to bottom floor.
Yeah, it's the late 30s version of the slot in the house.
Oh, that's great. Phil, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Is anything on your poker agenda? I know you've got the young child and what have you, but is there anything poker fans can look forward to?
No, I wish I could give them more to look forward to. I spent a lot of the last year and beginning of this year finishing up my PLO course on Run It Once, which was I mean, it was full time for several months, and now It's strange because I've basically just been practicing and studying heads up poker for the past several years, and it doesn't give you a lot of opportunities to play unless you find heads up action. So I'm just sitting here working on the businesses, but hoping somebody reaches out and says, "Hey, I want to play some heads up something."
Awesome. Well, we have an article up, Phil Galfon's PLO Secrets Revealed. I will share a link to that in the show notes. And Phil, as always, man, it's a pleasure. I appreciate you taking the time. And if ever there is an update on anything, please reach out to me in Poker News. We'd love to share it.
Cool. Will do, Chad. Thank you.